I'm a real deal. I'll shoot your liver out and hand it to you.
Hey everyone, how's it going? So, this is going to be another lead-in. We did our regular Tuesday show, although this week it was pushed back to Wednesday because of the Matchroom press conference that I was involved with. But we pushed this back to Wednesday, so today is Thursday, which is when it will be released. But I wanted to just jump on here a little bit in the beginning and talk a little bit before we jump into the Facebook interview or the live chat that we did with Karl Boyes, Mike Howerton, and myself. Demetrius was tied up this week, and who knows where Rob is. He's MIA at this point. But I wanted to just jump on here and get a couple announcements in the beginning. I don't really want to jump too deep into this, but Ryan Klinger with Isolation Pool Tournaments. This is, if you have not heard, from what I'm gathering from watching a couple of YouTube videos, as well as some stuff on Facebook, Ryan Klinger has not only been skimping money off of those events, he has been cheating in them as well. Now, he has not addressed, I don't think, the cheating situation, although there is a video that is out there that's pretty obvious from what I seeing anyways. And he is basically stepping down from running Isolation Pool tournaments going forward. He has delegated that off to somebody new. I'm not exactly sure who that is, nor do I really honestly care. I mainly want to address this from a outside view looking in. It's pathetic. I mean, this is exactly what's wrong with pool. I mean, anytime we get something that looks halfway decent ran by an individual, it just turns into some giant scandal where they're pinching Calcuttas, or they're pinching out money from the tournaments, or they're being just absolutely shady on the edges. It just doesn't surprise me with where pool is at when we have some of the top promoters in this game that have done this time after time after time after time again. And Ryan Klinger's been on this podcast in the past. When the lockdown first happened, he reached out to me and asked if he could come onto the podcast to promote Isolation Pool tournaments. I thought it was a neat idea. I brought him on and I talked to him about it. And that's why I feel like it's absolutely necessary for me to talk about this now, because I've had him on in the past promoting his product. The Cue It Up Network has not, nor does not, work with him at all in the past. The only thing that we've ever done with him is bring him on to give him a podcast to give his view of what he is doing with Isolation Pool when it started up very recently after it started up. And at the time, I do not believe that any of this stuff was going on. I believe he said something about how he has a gambling addiction and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I feel for people that have addictions. I'm not trying to sound like I don't want to make it seem like I don't care that he has an addiction, but I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he's skimping money out of the event. He's cheating in his own events, and he can't keep his finances straight. And at the end of the day, it just is what it is. I mean, emotions aside, it doesn't really matter if you're cheating the system and you're setting up a situation where you're basically cheating people out of their hard-earned money. Get yourself the help. I hope that you get yourself the help, but I just can't. I can't give a lot of. I just can't. I mean, at the end of the day, I just can't. This is what happens all the time with pool, and I find it absolutely necessary to talk about it right now because, like I said, we've promoted him in the past. So if you are a part of Isolation Pool tournaments or have been in the past or looking to become part of it in the future, just know all of this going into it, or just decide it's not for you. I don't know. I'm not going to make your decision for you. He says that it's under new management, and I don't know anything about the new guy, but I know that I've never partaken in an isolation pool tournament, and I never will, just because it's an entity now that I don't believe in. Even if it's somebody new, I'm not doing it. I feel like we got to point out the bad actors in this game, and I hope that he gets his help and he's able to beat his gambling addiction, which is what he calls it. I hope he's able to beat it and come back stronger than ever. But I mean, until I see something like that, I am not only not going to promote him, I am going to vilify him in the way that I think needs to happen, because at the end of the day, if we're ever going to drive this game forward, we need to highlight the good people and we need to excommunicate the bad ones. And I think that this is absolutely necessary, so I'm going to do it. So isolation pool tournaments is on my no-go list for the foreseeable future and probably forever. Taking money out of prize purses and trying to cheat the system so that you can win money so that you don't have to pay it out so that you can go more towards your gambling debts. It's not unforgivable for me, but it's exactly what happens in this game whenever we get anything close to something nice. So, it's just more of the same old story, and I feel like I got to call it out because I brought him on this podcast in the past. So there's my little rant on that. I will end it at that. Let's jump into a couple of announcements. We don't really have anything huge, although I will say that we are getting closer and closer to having announcements made for the VG Battle of the Sexes, which will be my next virtual event that I have going on. The official dates for it is April 13th is the first day for it, so very soon we'll start getting announcements out there and player announcements and all that good stuff. So stay tuned to the Queue It Up Network page. We also have, I do want to give a big shout out. I haven't done this for a while, and I really feel like I should every now and then. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Patreon system, only with enough context so that I can give shout outs to the people who are really supporting it the most. There are a lot of people's names that I'm going to read off here, and some of them have been around since the beginning. Some of them have joined recently, but everybody is really appreciated because it really allows us to kind of innovate. And very, very soon, I am going to be outliving the capacity of the computer that I'm using to actually do all of the audio. As I'm getting more and more into video, I am finding out that the computer that I have it's just not going to be good enough. So there will be a new investment that is going to be made into a brand new computer so that I can handle a lot of the video editing and processing that needs to happen with some of the projects we're going with in the future. So this is where all of this Patreon money is going to be going for. So I really, really do appreciate all the people who support the show and allow us to continue innovating and get new equipment and all that stuff that goes along with that. So I want to give a huge shout out to Sarah Schmidt. She is the largest Patreon that we have, and with that comes lots of perks, one of which is going to be sitting in with her favorite player on an interview and actually being able to ask some questions and partake in the conversation. So that's going to be pretty exciting for Sarah. I want to give a huge shout out as well to Aaron Taylor, David Peters, and Mo Bashir. These guys are on that next tier, like just absolutely been there since the beginning. They've been extremely generous with their support, and they're just great guys for the industry and great guys for what we're doing over here. Andy Morse, Ben Young, Bill Pelham, Jason Gibbs, Mike Gaines, Morgan Lupton, Pete Silsby, and Robert Miller. Again, some of these guys have all pretty much been around since the beginning. Really, really helping to support what we're doing over here. And I really appreciate all you guys. Brett Snowden, Cornelius Wilkins, Dag Torbjørgsen, which I'm still never going to be able to pronounce that. I'm sorry, Dag. He is from Norway, so I have a little bit of a lenience here, maybe. I don't know. David Wormsma, Jeremy Hart, Ali. Sorry, Ali. I'm just going to go with Ali. Ali, Sam Trujanovic, Stephen Hall, Terry Horton, and Tozar Hammond. Thank you guys so much as well. And then lastly, Amy Bauman, Ben Hunter, David Engel, John Keep, Michael Salmon, Ryan Harmson, Ryan Walker, and Tim Clark. We also have several Patreons that in the past have supported us, and for whatever reason they were no longer able to. We still want to thank you very much. People like Russell Henley, Joachim Skavik, George Herbert, Travis Richardson, Tracy Featherly, Ross Coprind, John Beliles, John Dunlap, Matthew Ross, and Jeff Smolik. We want to thank you guys as well so much. Of course, lots of things happened, and 2020 was kind of a weird year. Some people made it through even better financially, and some people made it out of that just barely. So we certainly should not be a priority when it comes to financial support. You need to take care of the home front, and I know that there was a few situations in there where that was exactly the case, is just making sure that things are secure at the home front, and maybe the support will come back in the future. But we still want to thank you guys very, very much for your support along the way. And lastly, if you have ever wanted to become a Patreon to the podcast, you can always do so at patreon.com/QItUpPodcast, or you can check the description for this video wherever you're watching it from, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Podbean or Google Play Music or Spotify or wherever you're listening from. The description for the podcast will also have the link to that. But, of course, this will always be a free podcast. That is only for the people who want to support the future of the show with better equipment and all that good stuff. So we thank everybody for listening regardless. And I guess with that out of the way, so that basically wraps up the Patreon update. I just wanted to give a huge thank you to all the people who are really supporting us, that are going to allow us to actually be able to at least partially fund this new computer that we're going to be needing very soon. So thank you very much for all of that. And I guess with that out of the way, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in the beginning. So let's jump into the Facebook live chat.
Yay!
We did it, guys. We're live. Karl, I'm so proud of you. You found a way. You found a way to raise your hands in celebration.
Used to it.
And it's how late in the evening there?
7 o'clock, yeah. Just gone.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Is this your celebration every time you're at home on a Saturday night and realize you don't have to play pool? Is that like how you celebrate?
That's the celebration I'll be doing when we come out of lockdown.
How close do you guys to coming out of that, you think?
My kids have just gone back to school, like a week. And then I think at the end of the month, you can go and play golf again. And then I think the month after, some of the pubs are opening up.
You got that day marked, I'm sure.
That day is definitely marked.
Are you going to... What is the chances, if you had to set a betting line, that you'll remember that night? What would you put it at? Minus 800?
No chance.
Minus 900?
No chance. I can't remember last night, and I weren't drinking, pal.
All in good fun. All in good fun. All right. Well, we're given just a couple seconds for a few people to migrate into these. Last week we did this for the first time. It was on Tuesday. For full disclosure, we did not do it yesterday because Matchroom actually had a press conference, which was released today. I have the audio for that, and I was told I could do whatever I want to do with that. So I'll probably release that as a podcast, just, I don't know, because... But last week was a little bit of an experiment, and it seemed to go pretty well. I think the last time I checked, I think we were at like 32 or 3,300 views for the live podcast that we did with Karl and Mike and Demetrius. So it seems to be something that people enjoy watching. So I think going forward, we're going to continue doing this probably weekly. I guess I haven't mentioned that to you guys, but I assume you're on board for it.
Weekly-ish.
Oh, the heights get real big.
Yeah, well, of course, weekly as in like the video is going to happen. Who's going to be a part of it doesn't, that'll move around. But yeah, of course, we're seeing Karl here twice. We're seeing Mike here twice. We're seeing myself here twice. I'm sure I'm probably going to be here just about every week, but the other people will be moving around. As you see, we don't have Demetrius here. So Demetrius had some prior arrangements, and we'll probably get some other people as we get a little bit more, consistent with this. We'll start getting some more special guests. I know that Darren Appleton had said that he wanted to come on and do some chatting with us, so we'll have Darren in the future. I don't see a reason why we can't get other, professional players or people from the industry joining us. So I think it's going to be a fun one. Set your calendars every week for about Tuesday between 10 and 12 o'clock in the morning, Central American time. Just to mess around with Mike because he hates waking up early, so we'll make sure that we always get as early as possible.
That's just wrong.
And why don't we jump right in? So, Champion League pool, we'll talk about that today. We're going to have that on the docket. We're going to be talking about Fedor Gorst and Dodong Diamond James Aranas, their 4-day matchup. We're also going to be talking a little bit about a couple of fan questions that have come in the last week, so we'll get to those later on. But let's start it with, I guess, Fedor and James Aranas. So, of course, they played their 4-day event. They started with 9-ball, they went to 10-ball, then they played 8-ball, and then they finished out with 1-pocket. The first day, it was actually pretty entertaining to watch for about the first 2 hours. It was very, very close going into the break. I believe it was 15-13 in favor of Fedor. And then it got to 17-15, and then I believe Fedor ended up winning 30-17. He kind of put a package together. I thought
that sounds right.
Yeah, I thought the 9-ball had a chance to be pretty close, and maybe it could have been if Fedor decided he didn't want to just start running out from everywhere. So, any surprises going between that outlook, you guys think?
Not in the 9-ball. I mean, the 9-ball went kind of as I expected it to.
And you didn't watch all that much of it, Carl, but if just standing in the back.
To be fair, I flicked on very late at night, but I think it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock when it was coming on here, and to sit and watch a race to 25 ain't happening for me. So, I weren't shocked to see. The 9-ball and the 10-ball. I don't really 100% know his level, to be fair. So I would always back my man Fedor, but I don't really know enough about Aranas' game just yet. The rotation, it could always be a bit up in the air. The 8-ball, not really seen much of both guys play the 8-ball. And the 1-pocket, I would imagine you guys are more knowledgeable than my good self on the 1-hole side of it. So that's my input.
Well, don't worry. We're going to rely on your lack of knowledge at 1-pocket for an interesting discussion later that we had started already. But, I suppose as I'm looking up the exact results of the event, I think it's a little interesting, maybe, if nothing else, just because there's nothing else to look forward to. We're kind of maybe getting a little more hooked up on things like this just because, what else do we have to look forward to? Of course,
Yep.
Of course, it is now the 17th, and we are 5 days away from some Matchroom Pool, which is always the most exciting thing on the calendar every single year. Whatever you think of the Matchroom entity, you cannot argue with the fact that they are the best this game has to offer. So I'm pretty excited for that. But of course, we can still talk about this. Let's move on to the 10-ball, I guess. The 10-ball, I actually thought the 9-ball and the 10-ball would be flipped. Fedor is obviously known for his 10-ball break and his jumping abilities, and that's kind of 10-ball right there. So I kind of thought that's the 10-ball would be more of a blowout in favor of Fedor, and he actually barely ended up sneaking out the win. He won 25-23. Of course, James can play pool. He's not helpless by any stretch of the imagination, but Fedor is, his 10-ball is just gross, how good he actually plays 10-ball at this day. So, do we have any thoughts on the 10-ball portion of this? Mike, you want to start with it?
Wasn't James up by a rack or two right there towards the end, and then he missed a ball or he came up dry on a break and Fedor ran out the set?
Yeah, I think he was up 23-22, and I think he broke and scratched.
Yeah. That's pretty strong. And I didn't expect it to be that close. Like you were saying, I kind of figured the 9-ball and the 10-ball Fedor had run away with, and I thought the 8-ball James had a chance to win. And I didn't think there was any chance that he was going to lose the 1-pocket, but we can get to that.
Yeah, to be fair, if it was 3-1, but with the sounds of it, could have easily been 2-2. So maybe they'll do something again in the future with a bit more at stake, and who knows?
Yeah, Didi is always looking to match up and always looking to get to gambling, and anybody that's going to be paired up with Roy is going to be looking for action pretty much all the time. So, I don't see why Fedor wouldn't be playing against anybody he could possibly get his hands on as well. Who in the world would you pick to comfortably have it? Well, Who in the world would you pick to actually beat Fedor right now? Is there anyone? What do you guys think?
Filler. That's it.
You think? What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what to judge it on, if I'm being totally honest. But I mean, I'm sure there's a few guys out there that can. I think if you look at the likes of Filler, Shane, Chang, I mean, they're certainly not out of sorts to beat Fedor, just as Fedor can beat them. Will they ever play? I don't know, but in a rotation kind of game over a long set, if I had to have a bet and it was my last dime, I wouldn't be looking too far away from Joshua Filler, to be honest.
Yeah. I think if push came to shove, I think I would probably take Filler, and I would probably take Cheng Jung Lin, and I might think about taking Shane if he was prepared properly, of course. But I mean, I think the list is pretty short. I think it's maybe those three. Maybe you want to throw in a player like Wu Ching or Kopini. Oh, I don't think Dennis wants any of that.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think his break is there. It's certainly a 10 ball. What do you think about that, Mike?
I didn't watch much of the Dennis Shane match. You know, where my mind is wandering to when we're talking about this is, you know, Fedor kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, the three of us are pretty on top of who is who out there in the game. And, you know, Fedor came on strong. Joshua Filler came on strong. I mean, are we at that point of the game of Pro Pool where, you know, 2 or 3 years from now, it's going to be some other player from Europe that the three of us have never heard of? And Karl would know this better than maybe us. I mean, is Europe just full of these young monsters who can't wait to do what Fedor and Filler are doing?
Yes, I would say it is, but you know, to win, I mean, to win a tournament, it's a funny one really, because to me, you could win the World 9-Ball Championships, and I don't think it's a proper World Championships, if I'm being honest, because I think a proper tournament is like when Joshua won the US Open, where you put in a proper match arena, proper TV cameras, the crowd's full. That to me is winning a proper tournament. I've played in Qatar at the World 9-Ball Championships, and there's nobody watching. And even if there was somebody watching, they're sat too far away. They're not sat in an arena. So that's not taking anything away from Fedor and his game. That's probably more, we don't have enough events where the guys have an opportunity to do what Joshua did. But I thought the way Joshua played at the US Open, Matchroom's first ever US Open, and the field that they had, and then the last 16, it went down to the one table. Everyone played on that one table, and the players he beat, you know, Jason Shaw, Wu Ching in the final. I don't know. I think he's a special kid. He's a special player, and he's the one who thrives in that environment. And not many of them do. So there's probably a lot of Europeans who could come along and be the next big thing. But can they do it on that big Matchroom stage? You know, this year we're going to have the World 9-Ball Championships, the US Open. Will they be crowd? Won't they? It's yet to be seen. But I think in order to be considered one of that hierarchy players, I just think you've got to win a Matchroom event, mate. You know, you look at the likes of Jeffrey DeLuna, buzzing around all over America, gambling, playing, winning these tournaments in pool rooms, but you've got to do something in one of them big majors for me. And I don't really think the World 9-Ball Championship in Qatar was that big of an event, to be honest.
Well, so really, I mean, are we talking about 7 events a year? I mean, we're talking about the 6 Matchroom events and the international. Are there other events that are really at that level?
Probably not. I mean, the US Open, when Barry had it back in Chesapeake, you know, there was a lot of history with that event. You felt it when you went there. You know what I mean? And that wasn't a Matchroom event, but you knew when you went there, you know, obviously, Mike, you've been there. They did the national anthem. Oh, yeah. You had the arena, and it was class. Even when it moved to the hotel on the corner. Was it the Hilton or something? I can't remember.
I think it was the Hilton. Yeah, it was at God. Yeah, it was at the convention center, and
Yeah, it was at the convention centre, and then it
Right.
moved to that hotel on the corner, basically. But the way they built it up, everyone was sat overlooking the tables, and it just had such good history about it. And to me, that was another tournament. What as it got to the last stages of the week, you knew you was part of something special. And I just think when I went to the World Nine-Ball Championships in Qatar, it never felt special to me. It just felt like another pool tournament. Just I played in the semi-finals there twice. Didn't feel anything for me.
That World Nine Ball that we talked about last week, when it was a matchroom event, the one that Daryl and Roberto, I mean, that was a proper World Nine Ball, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, 100%. That was, to me, sport is about playing, where everyone can watch you, where the TV's on you, there's a lot of people tuning in. I've been lucky enough to play in every single pool tournament known to man, and when you're in a matchroom sport pool tournament, your phone's going crazy, and I think the other pool players would agree. It's just because it's there for everybody to see. The Moscone Cup's our biggest pool tournament in the sense of where you actually feel like somebody and everyone wants to speak about it and there's such a good buzz about it. The World Nine-Ball Championships in Qatar, never, ever. No one even knew it was on, to be honest. None of my friends, I'd go over there. No one could even tell you who won the last 3 World Nine-Ball Championships.
How do you feel about Derby?
I don't think
Does Derby fit into that?
I mean, I understand like it's got its place in the sense of American pool, but obviously for a European, I don't see it as being that type of high up bracket, to be honest. Well, in the world of American pool, if you're American, I get it. I get it's got its place, of course, but I just think, I mean, I've played in it once. People are walking around wearing jeans and baseball caps. It's not a professional event to me. So
if I can jump in here really quickly, and I'm pretty sure this is right. The U.S. Open is not a world championship, right? It's not. You're not considered a world champion. Okay.
No, it's just it's like it's a massive major. It's on a par with World Nine-Ball Championships without a doubt. So it's you're not the world champion. Eh?
Yeah. Well, so that's, I guess that's my question maybe for you, Karl, and maybe you as well, Mike. The U.S. Open is a major for golf. It is a major for tennis. Why isn't it a major for pool? What can you name?
No, it is a major. It is a major.
Sorry. I mean a world title, right? You're considered a world champion if you win like the U.S. Open in tennis.
No, you're the U.S. Open champion, or you're the French Open champion, or you're the Wimbledon champion. You don't win the U.S. Open and you're not a world champion. You're the U.S. Open champion. That's. I mean, it's not like a bad thing. It's on a par with being a world champion. Well, it's just you're the U.S. Open champion.
Yeah, I mean, maybe golf and tennis don't have world champions then, right? Do they? Are they world champion tournaments for those? I don't think that.
No, they don't. They don't actually have world. You're the world champion, do they? But they have like the 4 majors, and then golf have the 4 majors, don't they? And you want to win one of them 4 majors. So I suppose in pool terms, certainly from like where I'm looking at it, I would say US Open, World Nine-Ball Championships. Even when it was in Qatar, listen, you still want to win that World Nine-Ball Championships. No one's going to take it away from Fedor. But deep down as a player, you know, the one that Darryl Peach won and Earl Strickland and Efren Reyes, when it was in Cardiff and it was live on TV and you had the big arena watching. To me, they're the proper tournaments, not really... when you've played in that Qatar World Nine-Ball Championships and there's 5 people watching, it's just not the same, honestly. It's not.
Interesting. I think it's, I mean, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I look at like any world champ, like I think even if you're like a world 10-ball champion, that holds more weight than if you're a U.S. Open champion. Is that your guys' interpretation too?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's got the history. I tell you what a good thing is. Let's say, take someone like Torsten Oman. He won the World Nine-Ball Championships twice, right? He won it when Matchroom had it. So he played in the bright lights and all that. And he won it in Qatar. And I bet he'll tell you a story about how different them 2 wins are. Completely chalk and cheese, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But US
Well,
Open,
I mean,
go on, mate.
Matchroom's going to take it back to, I mean, it's going to be so much like the US Open. I mean, I think the days of the Qatar and seeing the tournament with 5 people in the audience are gone.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, when Matchroom got the rights to the World Nine Ball, you just, we all know the production that they put on, and just when you're there, it just feels different as a player, Just like I said, when we used to go Chesapeake for the US Open, it just felt like a tournament. Do you know what I mean? It just felt like, hold on a minute, we're a part of something here. As where the World Nine Ball in Qatar, you never had that feeling. But as a pool player, it's money, it's sponsorship, so it still means a lot, but doesn't mean. I bet these guys would rather win this Predator CLP than the World Nine Ball Championships in Qatar. You're going to get more frigging glamour off the back of this win than you are in Qatar, I can assure you. So
then the kind of lead up to my question before, tennis and golf both have the 4 majors. Golf has the British Open, the US Open, the Masters, and so what? Oh, the Australian Open, right? That's the 4
players.
Or the players. Yeah, and then the tennis has Wimbledon, the French Open, the US Open, and the Australian Open, right?
Yeah.
So those are the 4 majors. Why don't we go to something like that for pool? And if we did, what would it look like? The World 9 Ball, the US Open. What would be the other? The World 10 Ball, maybe, and then. I mean, it's not going to be Derby City.
I think putting the World 10 Ball in is a dangerous game, because I think if you win a tennis tournament, you've won a tennis tournament, or a snooker tournament is snooker, and golf is golf. When you start saying I'm World 9 Ball champion and he's the World 10 Ball champion, it just all starts to get a bit silly, I think.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Do we even have 4 majors in this sport?
I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. If you said to me, pick 4 majors with what we've got now, I'd say US Open, World 9 Ball. Possibly
China Open, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it was around a long time. You could maybe say, you could argue the case. The World Pool Masters. It's the World Pool Masters. I know not everyone's in it.
World Pool Masters could probably be in there.
Yeah,
the only problem I have with that is it's not the 32 best players, right?
No, I know it's not a full field, but at the end of the day, with what we've got on the calendar, I think you'd probably have to pick it.
Not only is it not a full field, it's not even a full field of the 32 best, right? I mean, no one's going to argue that some of the players that are in there, like when Earl Strickland was in there, was it 2 years ago when he just completely crapped on Kachi? I mean, no one's going to argue that. Unless you're a huge Earl's homer, you're not going to argue that Earl Strickland's probably in the top 100 pool players in the world, nonetheless the top 32.
No, I mean, in snooker, they have 3 majors. They class 3 tournaments out of the whole season as a major. I don't know if you've seen the guys wearing the waistcoats where they have like the gold crown. Have you seen it where they've stitched it on the waistcoats? No. Right, next time you watch the snooker, look at like Ronnie and Sean Murphy and Mark Selby's waistcoat. They've got like a gold crown stitched on the waistcoat. That's what World Snooker have done. That means you've won all 3 majors. So it's the World Championships, the UK Championships, and the Masters. The Masters is only 16 players.
Interesting.
But they class that as they're the 3 majors.
Yes, but isn't the snooker Masters? I mean, they allow the 16 best pool players.
Yeah, the top 16 on the tour are in the Masters. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. Like, I love Kelly Fisher to death. Kelly Fisher's not a top 32 player in the world.
Listen, I know what you mean, Nate. It's a grey area. I just think for what we have in pool terms, I think you would probably,
yeah. I see. Okay.
Yeah, you could maybe stick it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know.
And maybe if it was one of the top 4 in a majors kind of sense, maybe then Matchroom would start, really putting the limits on who plays and who doesn't. Maybe.
Yeah, I've always thought like what I've never understood is this. Pool's played all over the world, isn't it? It's obviously big in America. We play it in Europe, in Asia. I don't understand why, we have the US Open. It's in America, right? World Nine Ball Championships, wherever that goes. Why not have like the China Open? Why not have like the Taiwan Open? Why not just put it to, if pool is big in Kuwait, the Kuwait Open, why not just get like 10 countries and just host one event there a year, and all the best pool players head over to that country? And then you're creating a bit of a buzz because Shane's only going to Kuwait once a year and he's going to Taiwan once a year. And it's just easy to follow, isn't it?
It's a lot more expensive for travel. I know that. If you're traveling to 10 different countries a year with how much money is circulating through this game, I don't know that a second tier like a Tyler Steyer or a Chris Robinson would be able to make those. Talking about USA players, I don't know if they can afford that.
Yeah, obviously it comes down to money and things, but
yeah. In golf you could easily do that. But
aren't the members of the WPA supposed to have championships for their own individual areas? Like, I know the BCA is supposed to run a national championship. They could theoretically take the U.S. Open and say, this is going to be our national championship. But I believe it's part of their agreement with the WPA that they have to run. And if the BCA is under that agreement, then I would imagine the EPBF and the APBU and all of those organizations. And to take that idea, you would ask why we don't have a Grand Slam or a Triple Crown or that sort of thing. And again, it comes down to organization. The WPA should be the organization that would be doing that. Or if you want to say the media association could just say, look, we're going to name this. We do have a media association that handles the Hall of Fame and that sort of thing, although it's ran out of North America. But I guess there's nothing stopping them from saying we're going to consider these events the Triple Crown or the Grand Slam, or maybe they just want to say, pool doesn't need to have the things that tennis has and that golf has. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing. Maybe that's just the mentality.
I think that's exactly wrong. I think tennis gets so much media buzz, for the four majors, and of course they don't have quite the buzz the rest of the time. But the only time I ever pay attention to tennis at all and could give two craps is during the French Open, Wimbledon, Australian Open, and the U.S. Open. That's it.
I'm the same. I'm one of them as well.
Yeah, but I do. But the thing is, and I don't give a crap about tennis at all. But I do care during those times. I do pay attention. And I would consider myself not even remotely a tennis fan. Like, I could care less. In fact, I hate the game of tennis, but I love Rafael Nadal, and I love paying attention to Rafael Nadal during those tournaments. The golf, I'm a huge golf fan, so I do watch quite a bit of golf, but during the Masters, during the US Open, during the British Open, and during the Players. And even the other ones. I pay attention to those religiously. Don't you? Why wouldn't that work, at least at a smaller scale, if it was enacted in pool? I think it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think I think for sure we need something like that. I'm not so sure if you need to start saying these are the four majors or something, but at least we've got the World Nine Ball, we've got the US Open, the World Masters. At the end of the day, if you're one of the top players, you're going to get in it at the end of the day. They're not really going to miss somebody out, are they? Even if you might get a few players sneaking in where you think, well, should they, shouldn't they? They're pretty much, the Shanes of the world and the fillers. They're in the tournament every year without fail. World Cup of Pool, great tournament, World Cup of Pool. I think that's one of the top 3 or 4 tournaments we've got in pool. I think it's tremendous tournament.
I think if I had to create a list, I would say it's probably number 3.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant tournament just because, and I know it's individual sport and things like this, but just the drama it creates, and you've got all the countries in it, and I think it's a brilliant, and it's got history. It's been going a long time, that tournament. You look at the teams that have won it. Yours truly, just get that one in. No, but I just think it's a great tournament. Yeah, it's a great tournament. The things that happen, the mistakes that happen, and the pressure, because it's big money. It's a brilliant tournament, World Cup.
And the marketing opportunities that it creates are just fantastic. the South African twin brothers. I mean, that's a great marketing opportunity.
And then one year Albin and Yasmin played together,
absolutely.
and just everything. And then you see, remember that one, Mike, where Thailand got to the final, didn't they? Remember when they got to the final? They played Philippines, I think.
Oh, this must have been a while ago.
Well, it's just barely ringing a bell.
Yeah, I'm sure Thailand got to the final one year. It was like, who are these guys? I don't think anyone's seen them since.
Well, shit. Last year was it Argentina that made it 2 rounds in? The guys that don't even play pool, they're 3-cushion billiard players, and they're on their shots, and you know pool players always like right here, and they're up here shooting like this, just like
Chile. Yeah, I think it was Chile, but one of them guys he plays good pool. He plays Chinese 8-ball, but that's what I mean. You get that sort of like. No, you just get to see people from different countries playing, don't you? So I just
great. I thought 2 years ago when they had the team from Hong Kong, and there was he was like 17 or 18 years old, but he looked like he was like 6. I mean, he literally looked like he was 5'1" and a baby face, like he was 3 years old. But he ran out from everywhere, and they won a match. It was pretty cool. I think the World Cup of Pool is the best marketing opportunities out there in the game. Yeah,
it's an awesome tournament. And what I love about it is the fact that, again, there's one table. Everyone's playing on that table in front of them cameras, and that's it. You ain't playing on table 17 with nobody watching, and you don't miss a ball. Everyone's on that table, and everyone gets to feel that little bit of pressure. And the big guys, the big players, you look at year on year, the people who win that tournament, it's always the big players. Yeah. Always.
Yeah. Always, yeah. I think the World Pool Masters and the World Cup of Pool are unique in that, where everybody's playing on the same table on the same arena under the same conditions. I think that's I think I think the pool is missing out on a marketing opportunity by not having 4 majors, or at least 3. And I don't even know what the third one would be if they had one. I mean, the U.S. Open, the World Pool 9-ball, or the World 9-ball Championships, those are the low-hanging fruit. What's number 3? The International Open, Derby City. I don't think you could have either of those.
I think the International's got to be. I think the International would definitely be in the 4.
Yeah, to be honest, I did kind of forget about that, because obviously the last, when I played, it was US Open, and obviously because I don't play now, I have forgot about that. And it's the same venue, it's got the same feel of it. So yeah, and you look at the field, they all still go there and play. So I think that would be a fair shout to stick that in.
Or the Diamond Las Vegas Open, the Predator World 9-ball, or the Predator World 10-ball. I mean,
I don't know. I think it's a dangerous game when you start putting tournaments in pool rooms in. To be honest.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So, but those get the fields as well.
Yeah, they get the fields and the tough tournaments to win without a question. But there's something about everyone playing on the same table. US Open, it had such a big feel, but come last 16, single elimination, everyone's in that arena again with a flag and and the proper schedule and just a feeling, the feeling you get inside.
I agree with that. So I guess this all spawned out of a discussion about Fedor and Didi. So I guess we can try.
That escalated.
I guess let's skip over the 8-ball, because the 8-ball doesn't interest me personally, unless the 8-ball interests either of you. Dodong won that one pretty comfortably, which was a big surprise to me. But I guess I'm just not. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm not super interested in that. Are you?
Mike loves 8-ball. Go ahead.
Actually, it's probably the game I play the best. But what I found was interesting was, Fedor could have won that. He was making a big comeback there at the end.
Yeah.
I think if they'd have played it out a little longer, Fedor could have won that one.
Race to 25. Yeah, James ended up winning 21-17, but he was up 20 to 12 or something like that, I think is what he was up. So
yeah.
And 16-9, 17-9 actually, I think is what it was. So yeah, but I don't. It just doesn't really interest me all that much.
Well, I'll say one quick thing. I think I don't know how tight the pockets was, but
they were 4.25.
Yeah, I mean, 8-ball needs to be played on quite a tight table, in my opinion.
Especially if you're going to play a big table, because if you play a big table, I mean, there's just so much room. There's not a lot of clusters. If you got the breakdown, it's got to be on tight.
Yeah, and growing up as a kid, and 8-ball is where I started. there's a certain route or a path that you should really be going, and I think, when it's played on a regular pool table, and the guys are so good at controlling the cue ball now, you can go at many different routes and just keep spinning the cue ball around the table like they do, and that's coming from the guy who won the World 8-Ball Championships. So, it's just not quite there. It needs to be, it needs to be on a nippier table, and I didn't watch any of them play it, so I can't, comment on that side of it. But it's got to be 4-inch.
Yeah.
When they were playing, I think James put a 6-pack on him, and Fedor had a big package. It seemed like scratching was what was stopping them. The scratching on the break seemed to happen over and over again. I had a conversation with Ralph, maybe at one of the World 9 or World 8-Ball events, and I just remembered because he said in practice one day he had ran like 20-some racks. Yeah, what's your biggest run, Karl, playing 8-ball, even in practice?
I ain't played that long to run that many racks in practice. No, I don't. I mean, oh God, I don't know.
It's probably got to be an English 8-ball. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, it's just not something I ever really consciously thought about. But, when the IPT was set up, which is where the likes of me and Darren and Chris, and Jason, that's where we kind of got involved with the American game. The pockets were still too big at that game, but it was like a different format of 8-ball on there. I remember playing the IPT where I went on this crazy match unbeaten run. I think I run like 15 matches on the trot, and I was playing Orcolo and all these guys that were on that tour. But that was very much like, if you've got a big powerful break, you could really put some packages together. As where if you look at a little bit of the English 8-ball and the Chinese 8-ball, it's not really about that. The game, it's about being a proper 8-ball pool player, because if you go the wrong way on a Chinese pool table, the chances are you're not going to pop your way out of trouble. But then I just think it can get a bit boring 8-ball, to be honest. I like the rotation because it's very fast, it's easy to watch. 8-ball, how many finishes did Fedor and Aranas miss? If you watched it, how many times did they not clear the table? Yeah,
not often. I think I personally think the most exciting part about 8-ball is the cannons. So I think even if you're playing on the bar tables, I mean, it's crowded enough unless you're like Shane Van Boning and you're breaking at 28 miles an hour just to make balls, and you're averaging 4 balls on the break. I mean, you're usually going to have a lot of clusters.
I think with 8-ball, the problem is if you're sat watching and you don't really understand the game, it must be hard to watch, because what are you really watching?
Yeah, well,
it's where we golf. When you watch the Masters golf, I've never been to Augusta. I'm guessing neither of you two have been to Augusta, but they reckon that course is so hilly, the TV doesn't do it justice. However, all we know is the ball's got to go in that hole, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, you got to pay attention quite a bit to. Yeah.
But with 8-ball, there's that many balls on the table, and before you know it, they're on the 8 and they're shooting the 8. So I just feel like it's hard to create drama at 8-ball as well.
Yeah, but I think it's played so much in the U.S. that everybody knows the game. They might not.
I'm an 8-ball player. Yeah. I grew up playing 8-ball.
Yeah,
that's my game. You know what I mean? But I just think with the rotation, yourself, when you play rotation, you get faced with a lot of nasty shots. And if you're not feeling good, you have to, smash these big power shots in, and even to get a run going. You look at someone like Shane, if he runs 8 racks, it's not 8 racks where they've all been over the pocket, like 8-ball where you play a few stop shots and pop the 8. He's had to play some phenomenal shots in that 8-pack. But because they're that good, you probably don't really appreciate that 8-pack.
Yeah.
So I like the rotation. I'm a big rotation fan.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. If you play 8-ball at the top level, I mean, if you know how to play your patterns properly, it is usually, I mean, if you have a nice break, and if you're playing less than 6 stop shots, you're probably playing the wrong pattern for the most part.
Yeah, even on a Chinese 8-ball table or an English 8-ball table with super tight pockets, to me it's still pretty boring. As where, with rotation, and that's what makes the Moscone so good, because that table is so fast, people don't have a clue. So them shots where on that table, they just feel a bit different, and you think, oh, I could like Chris Robinson on day one, he overspun the 7 to get on the 8. So easy done. And then you're a bit scared. I don't know. I just think with 9-ball and, if you want to throw 10-ball in the mix, you just get faced with a lot of them little testers that you don't really see in 8-ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's leave that there. Let's move on to the one pocket part of this. And really, I think it's a little bit of a surprise that James lost the one pocket. He lost after being up 6-1. He ended up losing 10-7. And I think it's a little bit interesting only from the fact that the last 2 times we saw a European young champion, come over and play the game of one pocket, they are 2-0, which is Josh Filler and Tony Chohan. I believe he won 24-21. 24-21 or 24-22, and now Fedor beats James Aranas, who's not known exactly for his one pocket, but he is absolutely a one pocket player. He's not one of the top Filipinos. He's not a Boosty or a Dennis or an Alex, if you want to consider Alex a Filipino. He's not one of those players, but I mean, he's kind of like, he's just probably underneath the Roberto Gomez kind of one pocket players, I would say. So. He certainly knows his way around the one pocket game, and what we're finding out is firepower with these young Europeans beats experience, and I think this is an interesting question to you, Karl. What do you think? So if you were playing against, let's say, a middling kind of one pocket specialist in the U.S., maybe like a Joey Gray, since you two love each other so much. Do you think that you would be able to beat him in one pocket in your heyday, just because of the talent dispersion?
No, probably not, because I don't fully understand the rules. If I'm being honest, I don't. I've played maybe 3 or 4 sets against Darren when we was on the road, just for something different to do. And I had a game with Catchy at the Moscone in the practice room, but I don't know the rules, and a lot of the times. Certainly after the break, I think, I don't have a clue what to do here. I don't know what shot to play. I don't know. You see a lot of them fouling. I've not played it enough to catch on. I mean, I know Fedor, he might seem new to it, but I think he's more of a one pocket player than people probably know, if you know what I mean. He probably watches a lot and studies it and all that. I'm not so sure Filler does. I think he's just out and out lunacy. Going for everything, if that's the right term. But I mean, it's not going to take pool players long to know the rules. But it's a funny game, that one pocket, because when I did play it, I sort of got into it. I understand why a pool player could become hooked on it, and it's an interesting game. I mean, certainly someone like the Scott Frosts of the world, I'd be interested to see what his opinion would be, because he's a proper student of one pocket. So would he? I mean, with someone like Joshua Filler, would he think, well, actually, he could actually just blow one pocket players away, or does he know something that we don't, where it's he ain't got a chance, guys? To be honest, that's what I'd like to find out. Message me, Scott.
When Filler played Tony Chohan, Scott Frost made a comment after day 2, and basically said whatever you want for action, you got it. Come to Arizona, you can have whatever you want, Filler. And maybe part of that is because he was beating Tony and he wanted to kind of puff out his chest and act like he could win it, and maybe part of it was because he knew Filler was leaving the next day, and maybe part of it was real. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine Scott's big favourite there, I would think.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tony's
Tony.
Tony's a favorite to Scott. I mean, they just played a couple of months ago, and I think Tony's pretty comfortably a better player, one pocket player than Scott, at least at this point in his career. And he wasn't good enough, right?
And it seems like there was a phase where maybe 7 or 8 years ago where Shane kind of ruled the one pocket, and it seemed like we were seeing a different kind of one pocket. And if you want to talk about Scott, maybe Scott ushered that in with his power one pocket and got people thinking about the game in a different way. But it seemed like, and this is also a conversation that's happened in straight pool, where straight pool used to be, you break out 3 or 4 balls, you run those, you break out 3 or 4 balls, you run those. And now it's, you make a ball, you crush the rack opens up, you run 14. And that was talked about back then, that it was an equipment thing. Where straight pool was in its heyday, it was slow cloth. Now with the fast Simonis and such great equipment, these guys can make anything. Where it seems like, the top one pocket players are shooting a shot, and in their mind they're thinking, I know this ball's not going to go in. I'm going to lay it close to my pocket. And what he doesn't understand is I'm leaving him like a 20% chance to make this ball. And his opponent, somebody like Filler or Fedor, is looking at it saying, I don't think he understands. He left me a 20% chance. I'm out. Because you can make anything.
I think that's an interesting. What was it during the press conference yesterday when I asked? I think maybe it was Emily that asked a question to Joshua Filler, and whatever it was, his response was basically. It was about the format of the tournament. He's like, what do I need to understand the format of the tournament for if you never lose? Right?
Right.
And what do you need to know the rules of one pocket for if you're never going to miss? Right?
Yeah, if you could just make everything.
When you're that fearless, to the game of pool, and you think you're going to win everything, and you think you're going to make everything, what does it matter? And it should. I mean, he's probably the best in the world, so obviously it works.
That's youth right there. That's why Mike's scared to death.
Hey, I just like to watch.
I thought that quote was just amazing. What do I need to know the format for if I'm never going to lose?
and that's the mentality.
Good. Yeah, that's why. That's why you love Josh, and that's why you hate Josh. I mean, I love him for that. It's just great.
Haven't we all known players like that? I mean, out of Arizona, Mitch Ellerman. There was a time when Mitch Ellerman had that exact same mentality. I don't care who I play. I don't care what game we're playing. I never miss.
Now he's got the war stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Karl, you had to go through that phase when you were young and it was all of a sudden, oh my God, I'm going to get paid this kind of money to play this game that I love to play. I mean, didn't you go through a phase where you thought, this is just the coolest thing since the jump cue, and I'm never going to miss or lose to anyone?
Yeah, I mean, and I think obviously styles as well. Certain people just play a bit quicker. I mean, you look at Josh, who plays very quick and on instinct, and then you look at Kachi, the same age, but he plays an opposite style game, doesn't he? So.
Yeah, although Kachi, I think the Matchroom events has really sped him up quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the shot clock, you've kind of, you've no real option, but he's still playing that bit more methodical way than Joshua and that type of player. Yeah.
Well, I think everybody just thinks differently. Everybody processes information differently, and I think Sky Woodward, he doesn't think about anything. The game just comes so naturally to him. There's no reason to think. He knows exactly what he needs to do in every shot before he even starts thinking. His subconscious mind is just so good at processing the game so quickly.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's no right or wrong at the end of the day. It's, you look at Ralph. Ralph still walks around the table and looks at every ball like he did 20 years ago. It's just a style, right? It is what it is.
And Johnny was out there picking lint for the first 15 years of his career.
But I mean, as far as America goes, we've had Earl, we've had Rodney, we've had CJ. I mean, they were the kind of players that they made, as somebody in the audience, they made it fun. I mean, God, it's fun to watch, Earl in his heyday when he's just out there running a rack like it's nothing. And you walk away from it, you're going to your regular Wednesday night league and you're thinking, damn, I spend so much time studying this and trying to figure out what to do. Watching Earl reminds me this is really an easy game.
What I want to know is, what are you drinking, Karl?
Latte.
Oh, a nice latte, huh?
Do you have your pinky up when you drink that?
Of course.
Was that your wife? Did your wife bring you that, or was it your kid?
Yeah, table service, pal.
Sweet.
I need to like teach my cats how to do that. Maybe I can get some. Maybe I can get myself a nice glass of wine or something. You got any Baileys in that?
No. Do you know, I've not had a drink for about 6 months.
What? Why'd you look away when you said that?
I don't know. I weren't lying. I mean, it's legit. I don't really drink. I know everyone thinks I'm a party animal, but I don't really drink, but it's not about
A poker player would say that's a tell.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not about me drinking this, is it? What's the subject? I forgot.
Yeah, I don't even remember where we're at now. Are we pretty much wrapped up on the one pocket discussion? We want to move on?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, listen. I think it's an interesting game, but I think if you're in Europe, there's not really a big call for you playing the game. That's probably the only issue why you're not really seeing depth in one pocket. Really, that's probably the only reason.
And yeah, we had talked about this a little bit before we went on air, and I had asked you the question. I mean, throw out Alex Lely. Do you think you can name 2 one pocket players?
I mean, I know Niels plays a bit. I know Darren's dabbled in it, but I wouldn't class them as one pocket players, you know.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of them out there, but I don't think that there's any at the world. And I'm not sure if Alex Lely is a world quality one pocket player. I mean, I honestly don't know his game that well. I just know he very, very much enjoys the game. I don't know what his level is because I've never seen him play.
Mika likes to play with it. Mika plays around with it a little bit.
Does he?
Right. Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Him and Thorsten. I mean, I could see Thorsten like loving the game, but I could also see him hating the game just because he's such a pool purist. I'm not sure if Thorsten would like it. Do you know, Carl?
No, I don't. Yeah, I probably wouldn't think he would be a big fan just because, you know, he's that type of, you know, he plays straight pool very good and he wants to run them, you know, packs and racks and all this. I don't know. I think with the one pocket, from what I've seen, it looks like more of a patience game, but at the same time, maybe Mike's more qualified, whereas the game changed a bit where people are going a bit more run out crazy. I don't know, but the little bit that I watched years ago, it seemed like very much patience is key.
Yeah.
Nate, I think we might be being hustled here. While we're having this conversation, I've got another monitor up, and I was thinking Europe, one pocket, Durn City Classic, which was an event they held out there similar to Derby. You know, I'm looking at the last record that I have of Durn City, and there's a Boyes that finished in the top 8 of the one pocket division. I think he plays more one pocket than he's willing to let us know.
As if you've just said that on here, you've just ruined my hustle, Mike. No, I'm not joking. No, the Durn City Classic, they used to have that in Holland, and it was a bit of a take on the Derby City. They had like a Bigfoot event, so I used to go and play that at the 9-ball, and they had one pocket, and I played in it because I was there, and I think Laley beat me, so that shows you how bad I am when he's beating me.
And Nils won that one, so...
Well, there you go. So I said Niels, and yeah, I mean...
Well, there you go. All right. Well, why don't we move on to, I guess, like I said earlier, the Championship League pool is 5 days from starting. We discussed it very much in depth last week, so we won't go through that, but I think it'd be an interesting talk just to kind of see who we think are the 7 that are, you know, the 7 potential players that'll make it and who our eventual champion is going to be. Mike, did you want to go first with that?
Well, preparing myself for this conversation, I'm going to say Albin, Kachi, Filler, Alcady, Darren, Nils, and Gomez, because we talked last week and I said that I thought Gomez could make it, and I still do. If I got to pick one of those 7, I hate to say it, but I think I'd probably pick Filler.
What do you think, Carl?
I'm also going to go with Filler. I know throughout the lockdown, he has literally been on the table non-stop. Him and his wife, Pia, I don't think there's much else they can do at the minute. And yeah, he's just been on the table non-stop. And the fact that he's in Group 1, you would think he's a shoo-in to qualify anyway. You know, when you look at the likes of the people coming in near the end, they've obviously got smaller odds, so he's definitely going to make the final group. And yeah, I think he's the player in the event. What, you know, there's something about when you know, I know slow players and quick players, you know, everyone's got a style, but there's something about when a pool player plays quick and it comes to instinct and a rack is run very quick, it does kind of put other players under that little bit more of a different pressure, if you know what I mean, because one little error, it could be over in a matter of time. So I'm going to also go with Filler.
Got you. Did you want to give your 7 that'll make it?
Not really.
So I would say out of the first group with Albin, Chris Robinson, Chris Melling, Eklanti Kachi, Joshua Filler, Kelly Fisher, Niels Fine. I think Albin, Eklanti, Joshua Filler are in. Pretty easily. I would say that those are kind of easy ones. I think Miensko Fortunski makes it into the finals, and I think Darren Appleton makes it into the finals as well. So that would be 5. I think Naoki Oi is going to make it, which is 6. And I would like to jump out on a limb and say that Dennis Grabe is going to make it as my number 7, but I think Niels is just going to have way too many opportunities, and I think Niels gets in as the number 7. And I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here. I think Joshua Filler would be my number 1 pick, but since you guys picked him, I'm going to take Albin Ocean to win it. I think he's battle tested. I mean, he plays in every Matchroom event every single year pretty much, and he's got a track record. Of course, who out there has a better track record, I guess, than Albin in Matchroom events, you think? Between all of his World Cup of pools. I mean, if you want to go historically, I guess it's hard to argue against somebody like Ralph Souquet. He's won the World Pool Masters 455 times. But I think of the last 10 years, I think you're hard-pressed to find a player who's had more Matchroom success than Albin. So I'll take Albin to win it.
Yeah, I think Darren's going to make the final group. Is he going to win it? Is it too much too soon? I don't know. Wouldn't be shocked because I know what he's like, but I don't know. I just think, I'm sticking with Filler. But at the same time, we know Poole, and if Albin stood there with the trophy, who you backing to make the top 4 on day 1?
Isn't it Albin, Kachi, Filler, and Nils?
Is that your pick for the top 4?
Top 4 of day 1.
I actually like.
You're not.
I like Kelly.
Go ahead.
I think Kelly's going to come out firing. I think she's going to be
over one of those 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think Kelly's going to be coming in loose. She's going to have no expectation. She's been. If there's anybody who has been playing potentially more than Joshua Filler, it's Kelly Fisher. She's playing a ton. She's hitting them really strong. She's coming in with zero expectation. She's not supposed to win this thing. She's coming in basically just looking to have some fun and get into the ring with the boys. And I think there's going to be some added pressure from the boys that, hey, this is a girl, we're not supposed to lose to her. She'll be able to play carefree. They'll be playing a little bit tighter. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if Kelly finished as high as 3rd or 2nd potentially in the first group, just because of all of those things.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, like obviously this league and Matchroom get people talking.
Even if they don't want them talking.
Listen, when the Derby City's on, or all these tournaments, you've always got somebody not paying attention because of just the nature of the event. But this new league and Matchroom being involved, the whole pool world is watching. That's for sure.
Yeah, I like Albin, Eklanti, Joshua, and Kelly, not necessarily in that order.
I think I'm going to say Josh, Albin. I'm going to say Mellin, just because he's like a bit of a goofy guy. He's not, he's not really playing 9-ball full time as such, but just the way he plays, and he's an instinct player, and I think he'll get some wins, and I think he's going to sneak in the top 4. So I'll go Mellin, Filler, Albin, and Kachi.
All right, well, Nate's got Kelly, Carl's got Melling, and I've got Fine.
To make the top 4.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. I'm excited for this to start. There's been a lot of drama leading up to this, but at the end of the day, we get to see the top pool players in the world on the biggest stage for the first time since. Don't even give me the Mosconi Cup. that was not even entertaining. I mean, it is because we haven't seen it for forever, but I mean, it was such a beatdown. It was day one, it teased you into thinking it could be close, and then day 2 and day 3 were just blah. So, I mean, this is the first time probably we'll have some really, really interesting pool since the World Pool Masters of last year. Not even last year, but the year before that. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, and with it being the short race, I know it might not be great as a pool player, the short race, but when you sat watching as a fan or a writer or whatever, and the race doesn't matter, it's going to throw up some drama because you're going to get 4 threes a lot, you're going to get 4 fours, and you're gonna see players feeling the pressure at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's what makes some really interesting pool. So I guess, is there anything else that we want to say about Championship League pool? Anybody have anything else that they want to discuss?
Nope.
No.
Perfect. Oh, well, let's do one more. Who, if you had to pick a dark horse of winning the tournament, who do you pick? Somebody that's not, an Albin or a Kachi or a Joshua Filler.
I'll say the Polish Fedorczyński.
Mięsko.
Yeah, I mean,
I like him. I think. He plays great.
I mean, he's another one, plays very quick, left-handed players seem to pocket the ball at ease. I don't know why. It just seems to be the, when you look at Mitch Alleman, he played lefty, didn't he? They're very quick. They just, Joshua lefty. So. Yeah, Josh lefty. Them lefties just seem to play a bit quicker and very natural. So, yeah, I mean, maybe in Poland they might not think he's an underdog, but I think in the world of pool, the fact that he's not played in a Mosconi yet and he's not won one of the big tournaments, if you like, I think we could class him as an underdog. So I will go and pick Fedorczyński. He's my pick for the dark horses.
All right, Mike, you want me to go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So my dark horse is going to be a super, super long shot. And it's because he's in Group 7. So he gets one opportunity to win. My dark horse is going to be Denis Grabe. I think that the last time that we saw him play, he was running out from everywhere. He was right on the cusp of being basically like a top. I mean, I would say, I think once the last time we saw Denis Grabe, I would say he was easily a top 10 European player, and he was really pushing that top 5 range. Was he there yet? Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but I think he was getting to the point where he was pushing it. He's only got one opportunity, so it's probably a bit of a silly pick to pick him for a dark horse when he only has one chance. But if we're taking a long shot, I like my chances with Dennis, so that's my pick.
How far outside of the top 4 are we allowed to go here?
Somebody not in day 1 will let you off.
Oh, somebody not in day 1. Okay. I mean, Al-Qaeda's not really an underdog. I mean, if Al-Qaeda wins this, none of us are going to say, wow, that's weird. Came back from 6-1 and 110 to 7. That's a shock. But
no, I don't think you can't count him as a dark horse. I'm not letting you have that one.
Gomez.
Yeah.
I think Roberto Gomez winning it would be a shock, but I still think he makes the top 7. So I don't think Nils winning it would be a shock. I don't think of the top guys of the other 6 that I think will be in the final 7. Well, yeah. I think Gomez was. So I'd take Gomez.
I think even Chris. I don't Chris even Melling would be a surprise.
Who?
I think Chris Melling would even be a surprise if he won this.
Yeah, he'd be a surprise, but he's also on day 1, so we can't pick a day 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he would come under that dark horse bracket. I don't think Al-Qaeda, he's won 2 World Masters in 3 years. Yeah.
I don't think Darren would be a shock.
I don't think Darren would be a shock,
given
but
the trajectory of his career, I think it'd be a surprise. I don't know if it'd be a shock.
Yeah, I think because it feels like, I mean, I know we've had COVID and things, but it's a bit like, what was the last big pool tournament Darren won? It's probably longer than you actually think. Time goes that quick. I remember like he won the US Open in 2010. Feels like yesterday.
Probably 2014, I would guess, would be his last time he's won something worth discussing, would be my guess.
Maybe a little bit after that, but yeah, I mean, it just seems like there's a new breed of player, doesn't it? That young, the Philly, the Catcher, the Fedor, that type of thing coming along.
Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about his resume. Since
I know of another site.
AZ Billiards, there you go.
Yeah, but yeah, he won 36,000 in 17.
And that was when he was starting to make his comeback. That was when he, I think in 2017, I think he well, we won't go into his personal life, but I think we'll just leave it there.
I mean, he won the Super Billiards Expo one pocket event. That was probably the biggest win that he had in 2017. And then it just all kind of crashed and burned in 2018. And of course, everybody had, we know that Darren had to deal with family stuff. But yeah, it seems like 2018 is when he really fell off the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is you look at that type of player and Ralph and Earl and Johnny Archer, the guys who have won and done things in pool. It's almost like they kind of forget about what they've done in pool. It's like you're starting from scratch again. Do you know what I mean? Because you're looking, thinking, well, Phil's won US Open, Jason's been winning big majors. Fedor won the World 9-Ball Championships. When you look back, it's like, actually, it's a long time ago since I was like in the mix. So you become a bit of the forgotten man. You're looking at the new wave of players and the new champions, and it's almost like you're starting again, and you've got to try and get back on that, that horse. So, yeah, I mean, would he be a dark horse? I don't know. I think if he's still in the event, the latter it goes, he probably becomes a bit more of a favourite than when it starts.
Yeah. All right, well, let's leave it there and let's move on to, we had a listener question come in, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for you since you've dabbled with quite a few disciplines of cue sports, Karl. They wanted to hear about the fundamentals to snooker versus pool. And we'll say like 9-ball pool versus snooker, meaning the stance, the arm mechanics, kind of the bending at the waist kind of thing. We see a much more, well, why don't you start with it?
Yeah, I mean, in snooker, because of the sheer size of the table and how small the pockets are, your cue action can't have any flaws. So what I mean by that is that's why you see the snooker guys so compact and very, very still on the shot, and the cue rubs up against their body. So that's like a bit of a guide as well. So if you're feeling a bit shaky, your cue's rubbing along your chest. And snooker players pause at the back. So when your cue's going back and forward, as it comes there, they have a little pause and then they deliver. As where a lot of the 9-ball players, they kind of pause at the front and it's kind of a swinging motion. I mean, that has changed a little bit in the modern era, like the Nielses and probably myself and the Darrens and them type of players, we pause more at the back. 9-ball, yeah, a lot of, if you look at certainly the American players, you guys produce some cue actions that are just crazy. I don't know what's going on over there. What's in your water over there? I mean.
Yeah, so I mean, as a little bit of a pool instructor, I think naturally you tend to crowd the shots quite a bit, which is making that really compact swing. You're getting your cue on your chest, and when you need to come with a big long stroke, of course you can't do that. You don't really need to do that in snooker, right? Very rare.
Yeah. Snooker's not about spinning the ball and putting a big. Yeah. If you look at I'll just use Darren as an example and Shane. Darren's not really got the shots Shane has got, the big power shots and spinning it round. And even certain shots where, Shane and Earl make certain shots on a pool table look easy, as where Darren wouldn't make it look that easy. But if I had to put my house and, my children's lives on Darren potting a long nine ball or Shane, I'd be picking Darren. I wouldn't be picking Shane because I think under severe pressure, I think Shane's going to miss more balls under the heat, under the absolute severest of pressure. And that's just basically down to fundamentals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Americans, I with the people that I work with, I find that a lot of them kind of have that cue right on their chest where they're kind of scraping across their chest. And that's fine when you're shooting a shot that's, like this. You're just potting a ball into a side pocket from 3 feet, something like that. But when you need to really let out that 9-ball stroke and you need to get your cue ball around 3 rails or even 4 or 5 rails, when your cue is on your chest and you need to get that swinging motion, even when you were like this, right? You got to have that arc to it. You can't. I mean, even Margaret Fefalova, who's probably the best I've ever seen at doing the straight motion like this, so they're not lifting the cue up and down. You're still going to have a little bit of that arc to it. So if you have that arc to it and you got your chest in the way, your cue is across your chest. The only way that you can come across is to pull it out to your side and then back, because you can't go through your chest unless you stand up to the shot. And Shane actually does that on his break. You'll notice when Shane breaks the balls, this first movement is his chest up. And that creates the distance for that cue to come through so that you're not running into your chest. But most players don't do that. And if they do, then you get yelled at for jumping up on the shot, right? So the only way that your cue can actually go through on those big motions is to actually go out and then come back through. So generally speaking, you want to keep your chest off of the shot if you're going to be playing the big stroke 9-ball games, 8-ball games, stuff like that, where you need to use a big stroke. And I think that was kind of a lot of the discussion I wanted to have between snooker and pocket pool, more so specifically. So, did you want to address that, Carl?
Yeah, I just think it's about, at the end of the day, you don't have to be as accurate on a pool table to pocket the ball as well. On a snooker table, it's everything. So, I know snooker players who are very, very good, and I mean, you guys would go, how's he not world number one? But they've got flaws in the other departments. So it could be mentally they're not as strong as other guys, and safety aspect. So you have to be more of a complete package for sure. With pool, it's not all about pocketing the ball. You certainly look at, I know I've mentioned Earl and Shane, but they're the type of. I look at the likes of Shane and Earl as a pure 9-ball pool player. And what I mean by that is when I watch like Darren play it, it's just a different type of 9-ball. I don't know if you see the same as what I'm seeing. It's like when Darren plays, it's a bit more clinical and not as flamboyant, let's say, because his cue ball's neat and he plays it a different way. As well, I think Jason, who's obviously British, when he moved over to America, and I think now he uses the extension on his cue, he's still very compact and close to his chest, but he can also play the power shots. And I think that's because he puts the extension on his cue, and it's just helping him with the more power that he might not get with a shorter cue,
Yeah, I would say an even better example, maybe as opposed to Darren, would be somebody like a Ralph Souquet, who, he just moves the cue ball as minimal as possible. He's always properly maintaining his angles. And Shane and Earl, it just seems like, yeah, they'd love to maintain their angles, but they don't really care because they'll draw the ball 3 rails effortlessly and, create the angle again by doing something crazy. And I think that's a little bit of what you're talking about, where the European players tend to really put that emphasis on maintaining angles. And I think the U.S. players really put that emphasis onto making sure that every shot is available so that you can, make that 3-rail stroke shot with effortless ease and get yourself back into your line of shot with your stroke, as opposed to just getting your angles right to begin with.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think over the last sort of 10 years, 12 years of the Mosconi Cup, I just think that's why Europe have been more successful. I think we've just probably got more players in depth who are going to pocket the ball under the severest amount of pressure just a little bit more than the US guys. That's all I think it is. Because the Mosconi Cup really doesn't, the safety aspect and the shot making, it's not like playing a race to 25 or 100 and all this. It doesn't really come into it. The Mosconi Cup, it's a short race. it's about just making sure you pop the ball, to be honest, in that environment. Well, with all the crowd screaming and shouting and your teammates there, it's about just making sure you've got a good cue action and don't miss. That's it. It's not really about spinning because you don't really play the traditional pool shots on that table anyway, because the spin doesn't bite on the rail and you can't spin it 3 rails at ease and all this. It just, it just dies off the rail. It's a different type of pool on that table.
Yeah. Well, Mike, do you have any thoughts?
Actually, I lost you guys for the first half of this topic. My AirPod went out, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. So I'm back to a different mic and speaker now, and I'm still catching up on what you guys are talking about.
So you didn't hear us calling you then, no?
No.
That's good.
Oh, that's
good.
all right.
Yeah, we ripped you apart for about just 5 minutes.
Yeah, so to cut a long story short, you're not going to have a bad cue action and swinging the cue out here and being a top 64 snooker player, or you probably won't even get on the tour, to be quite honest. You've no chance. Like when Corey Jewell was playing in a few of the US snooker tournaments and he tried to get on the tour, I mean, it just ain't happening.
Yeah, it's
impossible.
It selects for a lot of different things.
Yeah, you've just, there's 14, 15-year-old kids in England who play snooker, and, if they was playing Corey Jewell first to 20, I mean, Corey's not getting to 5 racks, you know what I mean?
Wow. That's a statement. But it's probably true.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
It's probably
true. Corey probably knows because he's been over to England and tried, he's gone to Q school and had to go and experienced it. But he knows, Chris Mellon was a good snooker player, but I remember a friend of mine, I'm not going to mention his name because Chris knows him, so that would be kind of like digging him out a bit, but my friend who was on the tour, very, very well-respected snooker player on the tour, he said, the problem with you pool players is you think Chris is a good snooker player because you're pool players. We're snooker players looking at Chris, and we don't think he's a good snooker player. Because the thing is, to us, and I've played Chris at snooker, it was like, he was a great snooker player, but they're probably seeing something I'm not seeing, the other side of it. And he got on tour, he qualified for Q school, but he spent 2 years on the snooker tour, and he had a bit of a nightmare, to be fair. And as I said before, if you want to do well at snooker, you've got to eat healthy, you've got to train, you've got to practice 6 hours a day, be good mentally upstairs. You've got to be the full package.
Yeah. All right. And then, so we'll move on from that. And the last thing that we want to discuss today, really briefly, is I guess I had another person reach out and ask about breaking plateaus. They felt that they have been at the same level for about 2 to 3 years now. And they're just kind of getting sick of it. And they want to learn how to break through to getting to that next level. And Karl, why don't you take this one first if you would like?
It went off a minute. Did you say break as in pool break or breakthrough?
Breakthrough. So like trying to get to the next level, you kind of get stuck in it.
Yeah, I mean, I would think the main thing that they should be doing is without doubt practice. Follow my YouTube channel for some tips. That's obviously going to help.
And you know what? No. I'm going to put that out there right now because that's a good idea. Make sure that you are following and liking, following all of these, and I'll put this out there actually in the live
Nate,
video.
have you even watched one of my videos?
No.
Oh, cheers.
I have.
Listen, there's some cool videos, right?
If I wanted to learn anything from you, I'd bring you on my podcast, all right?
I got music and all sorts going on. No, but seriously, back to the question. Enter as many tournaments as you possibly can where better players are there. It's no use keep playing with like your mum who can't run 2 balls. You ain't learning shit. So play with better pool players, enter tournaments. I'm not saying gambling's good, but maybe play for like dinner and things like this just to add a little bit of heat. YouTube's obviously a good place as well because, 15 years ago or something, you couldn't really go to there. So there's a lot of things on YouTube and also spend a bit of money on getting coaching. Neil's yesterday, Neil's fired 40. Oh, how old's Neil's? He's 40-ish, isn't he? Whatever. He's about 40, let's say.
Yeah,
early 40s. He was doing a 2-hour live training session with Alex Laley. And believe me, he's paid Alex Laley, by the way. But yeah, and the reason why he's doing that is purely because he wants to feel the pressure of a 2-hour practice session rather than practicing for 2 hours on his own and probably not putting the same, mindset into it. And obviously he went live on Facebook, so he knows there's a few people going to be watching. So you just feel the pressure like that. So, things like that.
Neil's Fine is sneaky old, and our birthdays are 1 day apart. Neil's Fine is 44 years old.
And you're 45, right?
No, I'm 12. Cheers, pal.
Cheers. Yeah, so when you look at the likes of what Neil's has done there, making sure he's getting good. I learnt a lot, to be fair, because obviously COVID, with the Moscone Cup team, we did a lot of Zoom training sessions, and I suppose obviously Zoom shares have rocketed because of COVID, but with modern technology, you can get your phone like this, pointing on your table. And we did it with the lads, and we were setting drills up, and we were setting targets for them to hit. And some weeks the guys wouldn't hit the target, and next week they'd come back stronger because me and Alex were sat watching, and yeah, it just had a little bit of heat on it. So that type of training is obviously going to be very good, but definitely go to tournaments and try and practice with players that are better than you.
Gotcha. Mike, you want to take this on?
Well, I'm going to focus on what Karl mentioned about getting coaching. I recall years and years and years ago, I was working with a guy here in town, and he said, "You've got an oil can when you stroke. My arm was moving back and forth. I was down on a ball, and instead of just like this, I was." And sorry, I can't show it really well because my shoulder's acting up, but I didn't keep a straight stroke. My whole arm was moving. And I thought, well, I make balls fine. So why is this instructor giving me such a hard time about something in my stroke? And he tried to explain to me, your stroke is fine for where you're at in the game. You're never going to get better until you get that resolved. So it may feel like a plateau. God, I've gotten to this point of the game. I'm a Fargo 575, and I just can't seem to get past it. Talk to a professional instructor. Have someone who can deconstruct your fundamentals. And there may be something in your fundamentals that once you get through, all of a sudden the balls start responding the way you think. And you can watch YouTube till you're blue in the face, watching guys like Karl and watching guys like Neight running out racks, and you think, well, I can't do that. Why is it when I hit that ball and try to draw at 3 rails, it doesn't get there? Well, there might be something screwed up in your stroke. And once you get that fixed, you'll be drawing the ball 3 rails. So it may feel like
I know Karl is just dying inside that I was in the same sentences. I know that Karl is just dying.
Did you say Neight then? I mean, my internet's playing up a bit, so I didn't know if that was like a bit of a glitch.
I know that Karl is just dying.
You say Niels or Neight?
Yeah. Look, the 3 of us, there's Karl, there's Neight, and myself, and we can look up Fargos. So, the difference between Neight and Karl is probably the difference between Neight and I.
Karl thinks I'm helpless,
no,
which I am.
I'm just pulling away.
But all right, so I'll jump in. The best thing that you could possibly do for your game, and this is going to make you 100 Fargo points better, is go over right now and subscribe to Karl Boyes' YouTube channel.
Message me on Instagram, and we'll do some Moscone Cup Zoom training. How about
that? So you're using? Does that count for me too? Do I get like some free ones, or no? I'm just kidding.
You're a coach, aren't you? What's up? You're good to go.
All right. So,
no, but Mike's made a good point there. A lot of things is, you might try to waste time and think you know what you're doing and looking, but listen, you can spend a little bit of money and straight away, you've probably just improved tenfold just on a little few things. The thing with the professionals is everyone's got their own style and probably looks a little bit different, but they're all pretty much doing the same thing, the way they deliver the cue, and no one's at the top of the game where you're thinking, how's he at the top of the game? I don't understand what he's doing. We're all thinking very similar and seeing certain things, and A guy messaged me on Instagram actually about a week ago. He's like, I can't park the cue ball on the 10-ball break. And he sent me a video and his hand was nearly on the back rail when he was breaking. I said, just move it up about 6 inches, pal, you'll be fine. And then about 4 hours later, he sent me a video parking the cue ball buzzing. But something so easy and obvious might not seem like that to, players out there.
Yeah, I mean, if your pivot point from the tip of your cue is 16 inches long and your pivot point on a normal shot is 8 to 12 inches, how can you possibly try to, I mean, if you're normally bridging this long and now you're bridging this long, I mean, you have zero chance of controlling this if you only try to do it once per game. I mean, that drives me crazy when I see people bridging the cue ball twice as long as their normal stroke.
Yeah, but I mean, some players do that. I mean,
your tip accuracy goes down huge, unless you practice it all the time. Your tip accuracy is going to go to crap.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the Judd Trump used to cue a Mark Selby when they were younger. Let's just say it was there, and now they've gone up to like here.
Yeah, well,
we're talking about two of the world's best snooker players who have ever played. So, everyone's always trying to improve and learn, but some people just don't see what we might think is plain obvious. Mm-hmm. But if they just the moral of the story is to the person who asked the question is just pay a little bit of money and just get a little bit of help off somebody. I'm sure he has a favourite player. He might hate my guts, but he might love Niels, so he could ask Niels or Darren or whoever. And that seems to be the gist of what's going on in the game. Everyone has their kind of favourite players, and a lot of the pool players will do coaching anyway because it's a way of nicking some pennies, of course. And yeah, with YouTube and stuff, just how bad do you want it as well? That's the other thing.
That's exactly my point. Is most of the time when players get stuck at their levels, whether it's Fargo 550, Fargo 600, semi-professional pool player, middling professional pool player, even the top level pool player. I mean, how long has Shane been stuck at the same level he's been at? 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, it's been a long time that Shane's been at about the same level. And I think what it comes down to more than anything else, whether it's, getting a coach or whatever, I think the biggest decision that needs to be made to get better, and it's going to sound stupid, is literally the decision to get better, right? So I think there's a lot of pool players that want to get better, but they don't really. I think that maybe I should say it this way: there's a lot of pool players that want to get better, right? But they don't need to get better. They don't want to get better more than anything else in the world. And at the end of the day, if you're giving yourself an option to not get better at the game because you don't want to put the work in, because you're a little sleepy, so you're not going to go put the 3 hours in at the table this day, you're giving yourselves basically an out to give yourself an excuse to not do anything. I think the biggest decision. Or I think Joshua Filler plays the game because he can't help but play the game. I mean, he cares so much about getting better at this game that there's the idea of just not getting better at the game isn't an option. And I think at the end of the day, if you really want to get to the top level, not necessarily the top pros, but the best level of pool player that you can be, is you need to play the game with the knowledge that you can't do anything but play the game. It's got to be everything. It's got to be consuming. And that's the best way to get through the plateaus at the best range. Just make the decision and hold yourself to not giving yourself an option to cut corners and to not practice and not get that gambling session in if that's what you want to do, or not going to that tournament because you're scared or whatever it is. You just play the game like you have no other options.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the CLP for sure, they'll all be practicing now every day, so that tells a story when, that's why they're in these tournaments and they win the tournaments. So, anyone who wants to get better, you just got to put the work in, and everyone's doing it. Even now, Joshua's on the table non-stop. Darren will be practicing. Everyone's practicing. You know what I mean? You ain't going to improve by not practicing. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting. Tyler Steyer jumps in and said it's not going to fall into your lap. I think that's an interesting thing because every single time I call him, and I don't talk to him like daily, but I would say I probably talk to Tyler once every 2 weeks or so. And every single time that I call him or he calls me, it's literally he's on the practice table and he's talking to me while he's playing. I mean, there's somebody who one of the premier professionals in at least at the U.S. side of things right now. He plays the game like he has no other option. Talking about Joshua Filler, Tyler's the same exact way. When you make the decision to get better at the game of pool, and you actually buy into that decision, you're going to get better just by default. Because you're no longer going to be taking those Fridays and Saturdays off and going out with your boys on a Friday night. You're going to be at the pool hall or, down in the basement or wherever you're going to be at. You're going to be practicing because that's what consumes you at the time. So I think if you truly want to get better at the game, decide to get better at the game and stick to it. That would be my advice.
If I were going to chime in something, keeping in mind the fact that, I'm a ball banger. I mean, I play league on Wednesday nights, and that's the level of player that I am. Be willing to take a step back. Be willing to learn because sometimes, like I was saying with the oil stroke problem that I had, as a ball banger, sometimes in order to fix something to make your game better, you've got to relearn it, and your game isn't going to be where it was. If you're a 550 player and you start working on your stroke, you may start shooting like a 530 for a while or a 520, but be willing to do that, because once you work through whatever it is, your game will elevate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the right things, and that's why I think it's important to get the proper coach. You're not just going down to the pool room and getting the best player in the room and saying, "Hey, can you give me lessons?" I know a lot of players that can play semi-professional pool, but couldn't teach how to shove a circle through a circle hole, right? I mean, they're telling you to grab the square and shove it through the circle hole. I mean, there's a lot of pool players that are really, really, really good at playing the game that have no damn clue how to teach the game or express it to a lesser player. Mm-hmm. I think there's something to getting a proper teacher. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Tiger Woods' coach was never as good of a golfer as Tiger Woods, obviously, but they know the game inside and out, and they know the player inside and out.
Yeah.
Jerry Bryseth, and I've seen Jeanette, I've seen Monica Webb. I mean, they come to him when they have a problem with their game. Yeah. I mean, imagine as an instructor, Jeanette Lee is getting ready to play in a tournament, and she calls you and says, "Hey, I want to get together and spend a week working on my game." Yeah, that's who these guys are.
I was talking to Jerry Bryseth. He's a Wisconsin guy, so we actually live.
He's an Arizona guy.
You stop it. He's a snowbird at best. So we actually live 7 minutes from each other when he's up here in the summers, and he was telling me a story about how he was working with Jeanette. I believe it was Jeanette Lee. In fact, and he got a call from Jeanette, and Jeanette's like, "I'm on my way over there. I'm going to stay with you for the next 3 days, and you're going to help me fix my stroke before this event." And he's just like, "Okay, how far out are you?" He's like, I left an hour and a half ago. I'll be there in about 3 hours." It's just like, okay, I guess I'm doing nothing for the next 3 days. Jeanette Lee goes on to snap off the next 4 tournaments she plays in. It's so that's the kind of teacher that Jerry Bryseth was. I always thought that was a funny story.
Well, it goes to show that no matter what level you are, there's always something that you can work on that will make you better.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's bringing this to a wrap. What do you guys think?
Hour and 40 minutes, yeah.
Yep.
What do you guys think? Is there anything else you want to chat about?
No, I think it's just time to get ready for the CLP, isn't it? More talking points coming up, no doubt.
Yeah, we're thinking next Tuesday we'll probably do another one of these. Of course, that will be when the CLP will be on day number 2. So we will have our first finalist, and we will have our second group of players joining in. And the second group of players is David Al-Qaidi and Mansko Fortunsky. So we'll get to see probably at that point. I know that's going to be a rough week for Mike. That's going to be a rough week for me. It's going to be a really rough week for Mike if he wants to catch it all. I'm going to be waking up at 6 a.m. for a week straight so I can catch it all. Mike's ready to just run full speed into a brick wall.
It's just not fair. Why don't they have pro events in Arizona? Oh, we were going to have a pro event in Arizona. Last time they had a pro event in Arizona, I was in the Philippines at another event. So look at how that goes. Are you working CLP, Carl?
Yeah, I'm doing the commentary all week, and I don't know what time it starts. So that's how prepared I am.
So are we going to be able to have Carl on, or is it just going to be the two of us and Demetrius?
Yeah, I presume there's a night session, so I'm probably. Are you guys going to do the?
The time on the matches. So it looks like the afternoon session does not start before 5 p.m. It says. So I'm guessing it's a 5 p.m. start with 4 matches, race of 5, probably a half hour apiece. Probably 7:30, 8 o'clock would be when the event would finish up for local time. So probably it doesn't seem like we should probably bother you with that. It seems like we should let you just kind of let you focus in on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I'm available, I don't mind sitting in, and I don't mind if you kick me out. So you guys figure it out.
Well, I bet we could actually probably get Emily on, too.
Yeah, get me and Emily on.
Emily always loves to do promotions of her events while she's there.
Yeah, for sure. It's part of the gig, isn't it, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure. Another week done. Thanks, Mike. Mike Howerton over here, World 8-Ball Champion. Here, Karl Boyes.
YouTube star. Get me on YouTube. YouTube star.
We have the link for his YouTube right down below. He better go to YouTube right now and see that he has 20 new subscribers. Everybody go over there and subscribe to Karl Boyes, including you, Tyler. You can learn a lot from Carly.
Oh,
Don't
yes.
Forget 100 Fargo points if you subscribe.
Yeah, eat it straight away.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Till next week when we do this again.
Peace out, guys.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. If you've liked what you've heard and you want to contribute to the future content that will be made, consider joining the podcast's Patreon at www.patreon.com/QItUp. Becoming a Patreon of the podcast will help to create all of the future content that the podcast will have. Special shout out to Dave Peters, Aaron Taylor, Pete Silsby, Morgan Lupton, Ben Young, Robert Miller, Andy Morse, and Bill Pelham for your generous contributions to the podcast's Patreon. If you ever need any more information on what the Patreon system is, or how you can contribute outside of the Patreon, please reach out to the podcast or Nate himself. If you would like to contribute to the podcast for free, consider sharing any podcasts or the podcast page on Facebook itself. Also, leaving a review and a rating if you listen through iTunes. It helps others find the podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode of the Q It Up podcast.